All right, y'all. Welcome back to another market breakdown. Where I'm here to help you, navigate through the market so you can be able to make, better trading decisions. So here, what I'm looking at for the week right now, we are looking at DXY. So why is DXY so important for me to look at? Because one, I trade futures, and the pairs I do trade in futures, I trade gold, I trade yen. Every now and then, I might trade euro, but then the main thing I trade, and then every now and then, I might, trade S&P. But for the most part, I'm trading gold, yen, every now and then euro. So obviously, DXY is very important to look at because if DXY is bullish or bearish, then on pairs like EU, GU, I can know what to expect because those are usually the opposite. Or pairs like yen, I trade yen. So that's the opposite of DXY. So it can help me make better decisions on what to expect. So I don't trade UJ, but I do look at UJ to kind of, also get a better clarity on what yen I trade yen. So right now, let's kind of break down DXY right now. So I'm not gonna try to make the video too long, but it's gonna be very well detailed so you can be able to understand exactly what to expect. So whether you trade, gold, or just other, forex pairs. I trade in futures, but you can still do the same thing in forex pairs, So it's just gonna be the opposite. All right, so let's go to the weekly time frame, right? So obviously we are on a new month, right? So last month, first go to the month real quick. I want to break that down to y'all. We're on a new month, and that's important. So for me, it's important for me because I'm a swing trader. So I trade based off of the, weekly candle. So therefore, looking at how the monthly close is very important. So the first thing I notice on monthly is that one, where we had this nice little swing here. Let's kind of zoom in so y'all can see this more clear. You can see where we had this nice break above here, swing high, and then make a swing low, creating this low, breaking this low right here, right? Clearly retesting. After the retest has been in a nice clear range. But if you look on the current previous month that closed, which is here, we closed bearish. So what that tells me is if we close bearish on this month and we are already in a nice downward direction underneath the resistance level and we close bearish on this candle, then that let me know that, okay, hey, going into this month, we can have some downward pressure. So that gives me an idea for the most part this month, I should see a lot of good sell setups on DXY. So if that's the case, right, then I should be seeing the opposite on every other pair like yen. So if we look at this, right, so what I expect is for this month, right, I expect for price, just from a basic candle perspective, if this candle closed bearish, right, then that means price should at some point push up, right, and then eventually start giving us a clear breaking structure to start pushing back down lower because that's how the previous month closed. So that's kind of what I'm going with, right? Now, if we go to the week, right, we can see on this week here that we also closed bearish, right? But another thing you have to realize, we've also been in this transition phase for how long? For those who've been keeping up my videos, I've been keeping up with this. We've been in this transition phase for a good minute now where I was trying to figure, okay, hey, if we got a clear break above here, we could be seeing DXY push up higher. But we never did. So you can see how it's constantly reacting off of this resistance level, but also every time it comes to the support level, it bounced back up. So, but right now we're in the middle of that range again. So, we did close bearish the previous week. So you can see here the week before that was kind of indecisive, and then after that we kind of closed bearish. So for this week, I'm obviously bearish on DXY. So I expect price to push up how it's doing now at a certain level, and then at some point close back at a breaking structure to go back lower for this week because how we close here. Now the only way, let's see, let's also go to the quarterly real quick. Now it's kind of iffy, right? So this is where the trick comes in at, right? Like I tell you, I'm a swing trader. So I look at it from a quarter standpoint, from a monthly standpoint, and from a weekly standpoint. But I trade from a weekly standpoint, but I also look at it from a quarterly standpoint and a monthly standpoint. If you look here, right, and this is why I have like this bias right here too. If you look here, you can see here on the previous quarter right here, we actually closed bullish. I kind of zoom back in, so I kind of want to give that bigger picture. So you can see here where we're still underneath this resistance, right, where it broke out of and we kind of had to retest. You can see here on the previous quarter, which is the first quarter of this year, we closed bullish. We still got about 2 months left of this quarter here, so we don't know what could happen within this, right? So my whole idea was if we close bullish on this quarter, right, then we could be seeing price push here and then continue, pushing back up, like push down and continue push back up for the quarter. So that hasn't happened yet. Like I said, we got 2 months left. So the only way how this bias can play out, now to kind of go back to this, right, is we close bearish. What I would need to see is I would need to see at some point for this candle to close bullish on the weekly time frame in order for me to know, okay, hey, look, we could be pushing back up based off of this quarterly, because we are in a zone where price can push back up, right? But like I said, in order for me to go with the expectation, I would need to see this week candle close bullish. Then if it did that, then I'd be okay, hey, you know what? Maybe this bias right here of seeing price overall, let's move this so y'all can kind of stay focused on this. Seeing this bias overall push back up higher because we did close bullish, right? But we don't know. Anything can happen. You know what I'm saying? You always have to wait for the candle to close. You can't just go by, what you can kind of have an expectation, but also you have to go by what structure is telling you, because at the end of the day, structure is going to tell you the last story. So I always like to wait for my candle to close. So we still got 2 months left, so a lot can happen within this. This can keep on pushing down lower. Anything can happen, But that's why I say if we end up closing bullish for this week, then yeah. But for right now, my bias is bearish for this week on DXY. So I'm gonna stick with that. So so let's kind of go down to the daily. So you can see here we closed bullish, but this still kind of lines back up to what I was saying. So obviously, we had this huge push down right here, right? We closed bullish right here. So obviously we can kind of expect, we kind of go back to that whole concept of seeing price, push up, right? Based off of a candle perspective, price closed bearish, right? So therefore, I expect price to retrace up, right? So maybe Monday might be a bullish day, right? Sunday going to Monday might be a bullish day. And then Tuesday might be that bearish day where we might end up flipping bearish. So this kind of give you different scenarios where I would how I expect this to happen. Monday will be bullish. Tuesday should be to flip back, bearish, and then Wednesday we'll be looking for an entry. So it'll be the opposite on yen, pretty much. And then also it can happen like this, where Monday and Tuesday be bullish, and then Wednesday flip bearish, and then Thursday be the entry. You see what I'm saying? So point is, at some point you want to see that daily candle close back bearish, because we did close bullish here with a huge rejection pushing back up. So especially every time we hear at these support levels, price end up pushing up. So this still lines up with seeing price push up and then going back down. So let's go to the 4 hour. Let's go to the 4 hour. All right, so you can see here on the 4 hour, we have my levels already set. So these are my levels where I expect price to come into at a certain percentage, because from my studies, price always retrace at a certain percentage. So I'm expecting for price to retrace up at a certain percentage into one of these levels, and then make some type of breaking structure off of these levels, So that's my input. But overall, I am bearish for the week. Only way how I will flip back bullish is if we end up closing bullish for this week. Now you probably wonder, okay, well, how are you gonna know when to get in? Okay, give you a clear example. How do I know when price will work? Because at some point, let's switch this real quick. At some point, I'm gonna expect price to keep pushing up like I was doing, keep pushing up, making higher highs, and whether it's through structure or through just overall look at the candles, right? Then at some point, I expect price to eventually make a clear breaking structure, and then that's my entry around here, and then I expect price to take off back down from here. So whether it's here at this level or this level or this level, at some point as it's climbing at one of these levels, I expect it to make some type of breaking structure, and that's how I determine my entry on every single thing I trade. So But like I said, I don't trade DXY. I look at DXY to get an idea of what yen is doing. So I expect yen to be bullish. Bullish for this week. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. So now we have a bigger picture of what yen is looking at in different situations. But you see how like I'm lining everything up to even with higher time frame, even with my quarterly levels, monthly and weekly. So I use 4 hours as my entry. So like for example here, which is what I mean by either looking at it from a candle standpoint or from a structure standpoint. From a candle standpoint, you can see you have a high, a low. This candle here is lower than this previous high and this lower low. That's a clear downward direction. From an overall structure standpoint, I can look at this. You can see that, okay, price came up, came down, came up, made this low, came up, made it fell low, broke this higher, retested, and went back higher. So you can I look at it from both standpoints. But anyways, with more detail. So therefore, EU will be the opposite. EU, I'll be looking for bullish pressure on EU, right? Because we are also on a support level. We're on a support level, broke up on a support level. So I'm looking for, it's indecisive, but I'm looking for EU to be more bullish. I'm not going to really go too much details on EU because I don't really trade as much. Now, I don't trade UJ, but like I say, UJ is like an extra confirmation of yen because I do mainly trade yen and gold. So as you can see here, on this week here, we closed very bearish on this previous week. So therefore, I expect price. But here's a kind of thing. Right now, we're tapping into my quarterly levels. So, like I said before, I watch from a quarterly level every quarterly level, and I watch from a monthly level and a weekly level. Mainly quarterly and weekly, but I do look at the monthly candle. So if we go back to here, you can see here. Let's kind of focus on this real quick. We can see here that on the previous quarter, we can see how price actually closed bullish, right? But we can see how the momentum is also slowing down too. So we can see how we end up closing bullish right here, right? But we can also see how we coming back to the top of this range shoe, where every time we came here, we kind of made some type of drop. So that's gonna be kind of interesting, right? So what I expect is, if this is at one of these quarterly levels, right, I expect for price to show a clear, strong close on a weekly time frame though. Keyword, it has to be the weekly. It has to be the weekly when determining when to get in, So right now we're at a clear bearish direction. So therefore, even from a quarterly standpoint, I know it's not time for me to buy off this quarterly level because we still got more room to where price can continue to push down more deeper, So and if we just look at the weekly just by itself alone, we can see here that we end up closing bearish here, clear as day. You can see here, so it's let me know that we got room to see price keep pushing down, So obviously that's clearly bearish right there. Now we do have this bullish CRT setup right here. A bullish CRT setup is when price, close bearish like this, and then on this candle here we end up closing bullish. So usually you expect price to keep pushing up, which lines up with my weekly bias anyway. I expect price to retrace up push up into this weekly candle and then start pushing right back down lower. So that goes back to, I know Monday, since we close bullish going to the end of Friday, that I know Monday should be a bullish day for the most part. Tuesday could be a bullish day too, but at some point I expect one of these days to close back bearish. Once it does that, then I know we're getting ready to shift back down lower. So that gives me two confirmations. So we just look at DXY and we just look at UJ. So again, I mainly trade yen and gold. So if DXY is looking bullish, bearish, and UJ is looking bearish for a week, that's giving me two confirmation. So now we can go to yen because that's what I trade mainly. We look at yen and hold on. What was I look at? UJ. Yen should be bullish, right? So therefore, same thing. It's just the opposite. We have a nice clear breaking structure off of this range. We have some more levels that price can dig deep into based off of our quarterly levels. So we can see here, like this can still dig deeper. So, but even from a yen perspective, like we can see here, yeah, this is gonna be long. I wasn't trying to even have it long, but when explaining stuff like so well detailed, you kind of got to. You can't really kind of skip past it. And I know right now these videos won't get a lot of views, but it's gonna be a day and time where I'm gonna come up off of trading real good and really get wealthy. And when Johnson Investment name really get popular, y'all will be able to go back and look at all these videos like, yo, dang, this dude really did start it from the bottom. Like he really did start like with not much. Now my trading knowledge is very strong. Like, I'm like very well knowledgeable in this trading industry. Like I've been really learning about trading for the past, like I would say 4 years, 4 or 5 years, maybe 6 years really. But I would say 4 years have really been consistent. My first 2 years, I kind of like on and off. But I would say like 4 years have really been consistent, really learning it and seeing what worked. You're probably like, dang, bro, you ain't rich yet, you ain't wealthy yet. But that's because I self-taught myself. I went through unnecessary stuff that I didn't have to go through. You know, I started with, actually, I got introduced with trading. I got introduced with trading through iMarket Live. So for those who know what iMarket Live was, that was a freaking crazy experience by itself. So I just kind of realized, hey, this whole thing's a scam, it's fake. I can really just learn it on my own, and then from there, I kind of just branch off. So I branch off from the whole iMarket Live thing of the different levels. Y'all know how it went. I forgot the levels, but I know that they was more into trying to sign folks up. You know what I'm saying? Instead of actually learning. A lot of them didn't even know how to even trade. So it was constantly blowing counts back to back. And at that time, I had my first son. Anyway, I said that for a whole nother video. I got a series I'm gonna drop called Deeper Than Charts, where I kind of go in more deeper in my experience and what I went through as trading, why I got to trading and stuff like that. So this is like, I guess you can say, my kind of behind the scenes trading. You know what I'm saying? Me giving y'all, like, I'm like literally doing this from scratch, like. But things were going good for me. Like me and my wife, we're we got making decent money. We so far are saving a lot of good money. So my main thing for this year, we just make sure we get in position so we can better take more risk, and eventually have my wife, be a stay-at-home mom. I go full-time trading so we can really just focus on our family and kids, not have the system, trying to raise them, So I don't really, believe in this system, to be honest, especially, how everything is set up. But we'll say that for Deeper Than Charts. Like I said, I'm gonna start doing video Deeper Than Charts where I can go deeper, But also make sure y'all, share, like, subscribe on my videos, you know what I'm saying? Because I feel like a lot of my videos are very, like, y'all very underestimate my videos, but these really be some good gems I be dropping, you know what I'm saying? But anyways, back to yen. All right, so look, so you can see here from a quarterly standpoint, we're actually at the bottom from yen. We actually really in a big old range. Like, you look at the bigger picture, we're really in just a big old range. So we're at the bottom of this range, you know what I'm saying? So, but we closed bearish the previous quarter, So that's kind of why I'm still going with the idea of seeing price push up and continue going back down lower, because we still close bearish at the end of the day, So unless this quarter closed bullish, and then that will flip my whole bias for the next quarter. In the meantime, I have to go with that kind of idea concept, But I also understand, I see where we're at too. I see we at the support level, and I see how price is slowly reacting off of this area. So, but also let me know that we can be pushing deeper into here. You know what I'm saying? So it goes back to, well, how we know when to sell? Okay, well, how I know? Because at some point, as it hit these levels, at some point, the weekly candle should close bearish at some point. And when it does that, I know, okay, look, this might be a good chance to start trying to sell based off of this idea concept. If not, it's gonna just keep pushing up. You see what I'm saying? So right, that's why I have my quarterly levels and I have my weekly levels. So I can also look at it from a 3 month standpoint, but I can still go back to the present and look at it from a weekly standpoint. Okay, hey, I know what I gotta do, because I trade from like I said, from a weekly standpoint. So what that means for me is, I might be in a trade and I might enter in maybe Tuesday or Thursday, whatever it is. But point is, like, if I enter like early in the week, like for example, let's say if I enter in a trade like on a Monday, right, or a Tuesday, I'm looking to get out that trade before the weekend. You see what I'm saying? Catch my quick 1 or 2 risk reward and be out. Next week, repeat. So I'm looking to hold my trade for 2 or 3, 4 or 5 days at max and get out. That's pretty much what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? And I don't trade every single week. I try to catch one trade at least per week. But if I don't see that setup, like for example, I'll give you a clear example. Like, let's say, let me find a candle where, like, for example, let's say if I had a bearish bias, right, for the week, right, but it ended up being a bullish week. well, it didn't give me an opportunity to get in, so therefore I didn't trade that week. So that'd be like a reason why I wouldn't get in a trade. But anyways, point is, but because we did close bullish for this week, I expect price to maybe push deeper into these levels because we still got room where we can push up even more. Because one thing that I've learned in trading that, and just I know some people don't go by percentages, but I go by percentages. I've learned that price retrace and expand at certain percentages, and I've studied this over and over and seen it happen so many times. So this is what works for me. Everybody else have, I believe do what works for you. This is what works for me. You know what I'm saying? I'm just sharing y'all my, journey and what works for me, and maybe it can help y'all be able to make better, like I said, make better decisions, better navigate through the market. At least give you a clear directional bias. Well, you know what? Hey, look, this dude know what he's talking about. You know what I'm saying? He said he's a bully for the week. So you know what? I can take my own strategy that I do and just look for bullish sides of that. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, yeah. So I expect price to retrace down at a certain percentage and then flip back up. You know what I'm saying? So that's that. I know it's gonna be a long video, but I might start turning some of these into some clips. I'm gonna have to because it's a long video. But yeah, so you can see price push up, and then eventually price start pushing. I expect price to push back down at some point. You see here on the previous day, we within this whole daily count. That was a big push up in one day. One day. So I expect price to kind of it's a bearish CRT setup. Same thing opposite. It's when we after a huge expansion, we have price close bearish. So therefore, I expect price to be bearish to push down, which goes back to tying back into what I'm looking at for the week. I expect price to retrace down regardless anyway, and then flip back up higher. So obviously, I am bullish on yen for this week. So, and for those who wondering what broker I use TradeOvate. I trade futures, so I use TradeOvate, and I swing trade. And yes, you can swing trade TradeOvate for those who don't know. All you gotta do is switch when you enter in on a. That's that for another video. See, sometimes I get off track. I be talking about too much stuff. But anyways, and I trade. By the way, let's look at gold. So gold, I'm bearish for gold. I see this nice rejection off his level. We did tap into one of our first quarterly levels for gold. What that look like? That's this right here. For those who don't understand that, that's this. So you can see here, we closed bullish. It do got me kind of questioning though. This after price hit way over $5,000. I do question this because we had a huge rejection, and because we had this huge rejection, and we still within this range of this rejection. Sometimes I be thinking like we could really be pushing down deeper. Like this might be a bearish quarter for gold. I ain't gonna hold you. Like even though I put it as bullish because we closed bullish, but I'm also being cautious that the fact that we did close bearish. I mean, I'm not bearish, but we did have this huge rejection like this at the top of this. So, and right now it's clearly showing clear bearish direction. So that means we got more room. We tap into the first level already. So, but we still underneath this resistance here. So overall, what that means for me is we still got more room to push down. So that's how I see that. That let me know. So the flash forward to this current week, we did have nice rejection here, but overall still closed bearish. So I expect price to push up into these levels, one of these levels, make some kind of breaking structure, and then kind of start pushing back down lower. So unless it just flip and close back bullish, but other than that, like, after price came up into the zone, couldn't broke this range right here, and did all this, that's a clear down direction. So yeah, I'm bearish on gold. So other than that, and look, yields. Yields is very important because I don't trade yields, but I watch yields because if yields is pushing like crazy, it can put pressure on gold too. As you can see, we've been almost going back up to the current high on yields. So you can see here for the past 2 weeks we've been bullish, which I put pressure on gold too. Oil constantly is rising. It has not really going back down. We did make a little retracement, but as you can see, we're still back on the rise on oil. So other than that, look at S&P. S&P is bullish. Been pushing back up, so I expect S&P to keep pushing back up. retrace down a little bit and keep pushing back up higher. But my main focus is gonna be gold and yen, to be honest. Maybe EU. I don't even know. I don't like trading too many things at once because I already trade once a week. It's rare for me to really get 2 trades in 1 week, to be honest. So unless I really see like an A1 setup to where like I'm big on risk management. So I tried this based on my style, and it's already a small account already anyway. So I'm really working. I would tell y'all how much in my trading account right now, but right now, certain things I like to kind of keep to myself. Just know it's a small account. You know what I'm saying? I do plan on trying to build this account up to a certain amount, and eventually I will share that with y'all because obviously I can go back on TraderView and show y'all, all my stuff. You know what I'm saying? But right now, I kind of want to keep this to myself because it's like my own personal, journey. You know what I'm saying? That I'm working on. Um, but if it ever is a day where like I don't make some huge gains, then yeah, okay, I'll show y'all. You know what I'm saying? But I don't mind telling y'all. I'm gonna tell y'all not on this video, but I'm gonna tell you on deeper than charts, and um, I might tell y'all on deeper than chart series on what I take what my plan is, how I'm planning on. I don't know. I might not tell y'all. I might just keep it to myself, and then once I make it, I'm the kind of person I don't like putting every single thing that I do out there. I kind of like want to wait till it happens, and then like I kind of put it out. So this is like my way of like giving y'all the kind of behind the scenes of what I'm doing, how I'm entering my trades, what I'm looking for. So when I catch my trade and it's a nice win, now you might hear me say something like, "Oh, hey, look, I caught a nice 1 or 2 risk where I won this trade here." You know what I'm saying? Um, you might hear me say stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Only reason why I don't really care to really show the money part right now, because I feel like this is my thought process. I feel like if I be like, oh hey look, I just made $400 for the week. You know what I'm saying? I feel like a lot of people don't really even care about that because it's only 400. They so used to hearing things like, oh, like they want to see things like 10,000, 20,000, 30,000. So I feel like people don't care for the small gains. You know what I'm saying? But this is me on my journey. Like I don't mind. So I actually deposit about $1,000 in my trading account, right? So I was supposed to start with at least 3K, but I decided to start with 1,000. So and my goal is kind of like to build it up and kind of see what I can do with that by the end of this year. You know what I'm saying? So I don't plan on pulling nothing out until it get close to like around November. So I'm like really trying to risk as much. Like I said, as far as saving money, me and my wife, we have a good cushion, money saved up, a good cushion. So this money is no attachment. So I don't really care for it. You know what I'm saying? So, but I want to see what I can do with it. Really see how much I can really build with this. And it's probably gonna be my last time mentioning this. So unless you're just a person who happened to watch my video, you know what I'm saying, then you will know. So I guess it can be part of my journey right here too. You know what I'm saying? So I kind of want to see where I'm gonna be at. I was supposed to fund my account for the first quarter, but for the first part of the year, certain things didn't went right. You know what I'm saying? As far as like money wise, but we finally, like I said, got a lot of money saved up, and we get in a good position to really take some serious risk without having to worry about anything. So. Uh, but other than that, I like to tell y'all, the goal is not to try to avoid losses or to avoid or try to get the biggest wins. It's about really being consistent and staying in this game long enough to where you can be profitable. So other than that, I will see you on the next market breakdown. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share, and comment. Peace.